Welcome to Grand Prix weekend. We're here 6,000 feet above sea level for the 6th round of the World Championship. This is the circuit Hermanos Rodríguez, named after the famous Mexican racing brothers, the Rodríguez brothers. And first, let's take a look at the World Championship standings. It is, of course, led by Ayrton Senna with 31 points, Gerhard Berger second with 19, Alain Prost third with 14, Jean Alesi, he has 13, and then Nelson Piquet, a man to watch here, he has 12. Thierry Boots and Riccardo Patrese, the two Williams drivers, both on 9, Nigel Mansell on 7, Sandro Nannini on 4, then Modena and Caffey on 2, and Nakajima, Bernard and Warwick, they all have 1. Now let's look at the Constructors' Championship. McLaren Honda running away with it, 50 points they have, Ferrari second on 21, Williams Renault they have 18, then Benetton Ford with 16. In 5th spot, Tyrrell Ford with 14. Then there's a big gap. Brabham Judd and Arrows Ford, they both have 2 each for 6th spot, and in 8th spot, and the final scorers, Larus Lamborghini and Lotus Lamborghini, 1 each. Joining me on the commentary team, John Watson. John raced here last October, so he knows the track very well indeed. John, Senna going to be in race number 100 here. Can he make it 3 races in a row?
Well, really, there's no one to, I think, match Senna right now. His form is absolutely scintillating. But having said that, the man that took the flag first in Canada was his teammate Gerhard Berger. And we saw great performances from Nelson Piquet in the Benetton, the new Ford HB engine, showing the promise that Cosworth, who built the engine, said it had all along. Also, Nigel Mansell is finally getting together the bits of his act that seemed to be lacking in the first few races of the season. I expect to see Mansell giving us another mega Mansell performance.
John, a name you haven't mentioned, Alain Prost. Any chances here?
Alain Prost always has a chance. He's a great driver, but in Canada 2 weeks ago, he had a disappointing race. He blamed the brakes on his Ferrari for not being able to attack Piquet and from stopping Mansell from passing him. I think Mansell really now is getting his act together, is going to give Prost a much harder time than he was able to do in the first races of the season. So maybe Alain's job this weekend might be a little bit harder than he's anticipating.
Well, thanks very much, John. Yes, well, Ayrton Senna hits the century here. 100 Grand Prix it's going to be. And in Canada a couple of weeks ago, I was able to have quite a long chat with Ayrton, and some very interesting material came out of that interview. Let's just talk to Ayrton now. Ayrton, I don't know how good you are with statistics, but Mexico will be your 100th Grand Prix, we believe. Does that mean anything special to you, or is it just another race?
Difficult to say, to be honest. I think after a certain number of races, it's just another race. Maybe in years, in the future, then I might recall it as a special number, but not today. Today, for me, it doesn't make much difference because I think I have still so many to go that 100 is not that much.
How do you think about the Mexican circuit? Because you've got a very bumpy surface there.
Yeah, well, it's bumpy, it's difficult, stressing, tiring, not very safe given the conditions, but it's in the calendar and we have to cope with it.
How about the altitude? Does that affect you with the breathing at all?
A little bit, of course, but the fact that the circuit has some long straights gives you the ability to breathe a little bit better. Therefore, it compensates in a way for the altitude.
The season's going pretty well for you, I think. Obviously had that problem in Brazil, which must have been a big disappointment for you. But are you reasonably happy with the season so far?
Sure, if you consider the championship position, yes, because we are leading, we have a good number of points ahead of the competition. But if you consider how many points we could have had, given the circumstances in Brazil and Imola, then it could be a lot better. But I think looking at the championship right now, we are in a good position. We have a big fight this year, for sure. It's going to be ultra competitive, the championship, particularly from now on. and it will require the hardest work that I ever did in order to maintain the leadership and to eventually win the championship again.
You think other teams are closing up on you?
No, I think they are not closing up. I think they are just as good as we are. Different circuits, different performance, of course, but as a general performance, I think we are at a very level situation right now with the major teams.
What are the strengths of Ayrton Senna? What are the strengths that make you so successful?
The belief that you can do.
Simply that.
I think so. Just a question of determination and believing you can do the job if you work hard, of course, if you concentrate, if you apply your attitude correctly, and commitment.
Just wonder if you feel there's any God-given talent in you.
Sure, it could not be different. I believe I had the opportunity to grow up in this activity. Therefore, I had a good opportunity to develop myself in this in motor racing. But for sure, I have something natural in myself, which is a gift of God, that makes me do the way I do, things the way I like to do. And you either born with that or you don't. And I think I have that as a gift.
Speculation already about next season. They say you're talking to other teams. Are you? Is it a wind-up with Ron Dennis? What's the story?
The story is, the facts are, since this year is my last season with McLaren Honda under contract, I have an open situation as far as my future is concerned. I have enjoyed a lot of success here, and I recognize that very high. But my objective is to be where there is the best chance for winning, being combination of chassis and engine. And as I, fortunately enough, have an open door at any team, I am finding out what are the possibilities and the chance and the perspectives in different teams in order to evaluate better and make the right decision when it comes to make the decision.
Ayrton, thanks for talking to us. I'm sure you will make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, interesting insight there into Ayrton Senna, speaking exclusively to Eurosport. Well, behind John and myself, one of the great corners in motor racing, a corner I'm sure Ayrton Senna will really relish. It's the Peralta, John.
Yes, I call it one of the great corners of the world, and it's one of those corners that's very fast indeed. Cars are doing 170 miles an hour into the corner. This year they resurfaced the corner, so it's less bumpy than last year. Through the corner the speed drops down a little bit because the cars are sliding. It's a 6-degree bank corner, but at the exit of the corner then the cars are picking up speed, and there really is where all the action takes place, and the cars are coming off close to 170 miles an hour. A major corner. It's one for skill, for bravery, and it's a corner I'll be watching throughout practice and throughout the race.
In the pits on Thursday, the atmosphere was relaxed, and the Williams mechanics gave a young Mexican boy a very special ride. The Brabham team, meanwhile, were glued to the World Cup action and cheered on the English victory. Incidentally, Brabham are still without the new transverse gearbox, but it should be ready in time for the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard. Meanwhile, John and I were surveying the local talent who were enjoying a stroll along the widest pit road in Formula One. Hello, girls. Well, she looks a little saucy. Back to the serious business, and John and I hitched a ride on a pickup truck to bring you John's track assessment. Okay, John, we just crossed the start-finish line, and now this very long straight here, perhaps the longest straight in Grand Prix racing.
Yes, this is the longest straight in Grand Prix racing. It also is one of the most crucial parts of the racetrack because there aren't too many places here where overtaking is possible. So you want to be as close as you can to the car you want to pass coming off the corner. Stay in his slipstream as much as possible, and then as you come down to the corner, make your preparation for a dive down the inside, and that dive is a very exciting one indeed.
Just coming towards the Goodyear Bridge now into the braking area for this very tight right-hander, John.
Yes, and this is where we're going to see a lot of action in the race, especially at the start. A big brake, down from over 200 miles an hour, down to about 85, I would think. Second gear, and here we go from the new surface again onto the old surface, and that is slippery. It is also very, very bumpy. You want to stay tight to the right, take maybe third gear at this point, and then peel across to the left. The surface, as you can see, is polished in places. It's very slippery. It can be very dusty, but most of all, it is extremely bumpy. And those bumps affect how the car will handle. It'll be bucking around all over the place. It makes life extremely uncomfortable for the driver, and of course, it's very hard on the car. You can just feel the pounding we're getting here as we come to turn left. This is a third gear corner. You've got to keep pretty tight to the left-hand side, because then it's followed immediately by a much slower second gear right-hand corner. But it is these bumps that are the principal feature of what I would call the infield section of the circuit.
And what will the engineers do to try and help the drivers out over this section?
To help the drivers, they're going to do nothing. All they're concerned about is the lap speed. They will be trying to optimize the car to enable it to lap as quickly as possible. And if that involves discomfort for the driver, well, if you're quick, you can put up with the discomfort. If you're slow, it becomes painful.
Just a succession of lefts, right, isn't it?
Yes, it is. At this point, we're beginning to pick up speed. We're in fourth gear. And this corner we're approaching, this right-hand corner, is a very critical corner, because it leads now into the second fastest part of the circuit, which is through this right, the next left. We're now in fourth gear, probably flat out through here. And just as we come through this next left, we'll be taking fifth gear, and then very shortly after, sixth or top gear.
Just about to shoot under the Campari Bridge and into the braking area for the Para Alta, that very difficult corner that we were talking about before.
Yes, 170 miles an hour. We're now on the resurfaced part of the track, and this used to be a lot bumpier. It feels considerably smoother than even last year. Coming up about 170, I would imagine a quick dab in the brakes. In qualifying, they may try to go through here in sixth gear on qualifying tyres. Very critical how you place the car in this corner. It's very fast. You don't want to get into the corner too low too early. You want to stay in the middle of the road, and at this point now start to come down, bring the car down close to the curb. The car will be, you'll be fighting the car. You'll have lateral G loads on your neck. You'll have a vertical G load on your neck from the few bumps we have. A very physically uncomfortable corner. And now the car will start to drift out to the exit and right out to the curbs at the end. It's important not to let the car get over that curb, because if you do, that will drag the car around into a spin, and you'll shoot across the track straight into the pit barrier, as we saw Alio do 2 years ago.
Well, that's the Mexican circuit as seen by John Watson. We're going to take a short break now, but we'll be back with engines revving for pre-qualifying in just a minute. Stay with us on Eurosport. Yes, the track was still wet as the 9 cars came out for pre-qualifying. The Lolas at the head of the field, everyone expecting them to get in, of course. Aguri Suzuki and Eric Bernard. Meanwhile, back in the pits, Bruno Giacomelli had very little hope of getting in with the life. It looked fairly lifeless yet again as the plugs were changed. In fact, Bruno did one slow lap. 45 minutes into the session, it had dried out, the wet weather tyres came off, and the slicks went on. At this period, AGS were actually in the race for the first time. Could they hold on to that position? Suzuki was the first out on slicks, and he started to warm up the tyres by weaving left and right. And then suddenly the car snapped right, he hit a puddle, slammed into the wall, and Suzuki had had his second major accident of 6 days. Remember, he had a big shunt at Le Mans in the Toyota. Fortunately, he was uninjured, and he climbed out of the wreckage, which steamed merrily. Bertrand Gachot trying manfully with the overweight and underpowered Coloni Subaru. A thankless task, and he never looked like getting in the race, but no one could have driven it any quicker than Bert Gashow. Oliver Griard in the Osella, a regular pre-qualifier, but with 5 minutes to go, he still wasn't into the second part of the show. Then Griard really gave it plenty of welly, past the AGS, and now he was the quickest man out on the track. The times tumbling all the time. Suzuki, he'd got back in the spare car and was putting in a sterling effort. He managed to pre-qualify. There's Suzuki, a little shaken, but unstirred. And here is Griard. Griard definitely on the quickest lap so far. That's Suzuki, here comes Griard. Across the start-finish line. There he is, 1 minute 25.828, Griard in. Roberto Moreno, the last man to go out. The flag comes out, and indeed, Griard went even faster on his very last lap. Griard, top of the list at 125.281. Then it was Bernard, 25.456. Roberto Moreno, third, 26.724 in the Europe run, and fourth, Suzuki, despite the accident, on 127.511. Then it was Dalmas and Tarquini out yet again, Gashow, Langes, who only did 2 laps, and Giacomelli.
We're halfway through qualifying here at Mexico City. This is Alain Prost, definitely on a quick one. Look at those sparks flying out from under the car. Prost currently qualified in 10th spot. William Cruz round the Peralta. That bank corner, one of the most fantastic corners in Grand Prix racing. He's got to stop the watches at 119.378. That puts him up to 3rd spot. Bumps Stefano Modena down 1. Let's just recap on the positions. Still, it's Pierluigi Martini in the pole spot, 1 minute 18.526. Nigel Mansell alongside him, 1 minute 19.300. There it's Prost, you just saw his quick lap. Then Modena. Mansell goes a little quicker. Then, after Modena, it's Nakajima. Then Derek Warwick, Ayrton Senna. The McLarens really seem to be in trouble. Then Jean Lazy, expect to see more of him. Then Thierry Boutsen, and Alessandro Nannini is currently 10th. And there we have a nice little pirouette from Prost onto the grass. And I think he might have lost the engine. The engine was probably stalled, so in that spin, he's going to have to wait now for the marshals to move the car out of the way. And they're pushing it back. Out of danger, Prost got the seatbelts undone. He's obviously going to get out of his car. Maybe the cause of the spin is the reason that he feels that he wants to make a quick trip back to the pits on foot to pick up what he hopes will be a spare car, but it is Nigel Mansell's for the weekend, so maybe Alan Prost's qualifying has ended with 25 minutes left. We're watching Patrese on his first proper qualifying lap on what I imagine will be a set of qualifying tyres. Yes, the 36-year-old from Padua. Man who collects vintage model railway trains and also wristwatches. Got over 40 of those. Father of twins. And what's he going to stop the watch at? 118.215. And Patrese, yes, John, you're right. Patrese takes pole position. Riccardo Patrese, and is he still going to go for another quick one? No, he's not. He's slowing down. He had his one good clean lap. He's got provisional pole position. We've got about 15 minutes left of the session, and I think he'll be quite pleased with himself. Found the clear lap. There you see now it's Patrese and Martini, 2 Italians on the front row of the grid. Nigel Mansell, Nelson Piquet, Modena, Prost and Nakajima. It's the closing 10 minutes of qualifying here at Mexico City. Ayrton Senna is out on a fast one. Senna, can he bump Riccardo Patrese off pole position? Currently is Patrese on 1 minute 18.215. Little Pierluigi Martini still on the front row of the grid, 118.526. Then it's Modena, Berger, Mansell, Piquet, Alesi, Boutsen and Prost. The McLaren Honda package not so effective here at Mexico as it has been for the rest of the season. Are we going to see the true talent of Ayrton Senna? John, this looks like a quick one. Well, he's certainly making a fairly substantial effort. I'm not quite sure whether this first time lap on his qualifying tyres is going to be his best one. The early part of the lap didn't look quite as quick as it would normally be, but At this point of the circuit, he is quick. 1 minute 10 just after the entry to the corner, so I suspect it's going to be a very good lap indeed. 1 minute 18.416. Ayrton Senna goes into second spot. So it is now for Tracy and Senna at the top of the list. So you saw a very quick lap from Senna there. Paolo Barilla goes past him. It is Barilla's teammate, Martini, who is still third fastest. Barilla currently in 14th spot. The lap you just saw him complete. Senna, meanwhile, now cruising. In the last 16 races, Senna has been on the pole on every occasion bar 3. There you see the current position for Tracy and Senna, Martini and Modena, Berger and Mansell and Piquet. And the change is Gerhard Berger who's now done it. So if McLaren Honda were in trouble, they are no longer. And it is 1 minute 17.227. That is faster than last year's pole position. Berger for Tracy, Senna, Martini, Mansell, Modena, Piquet. And the times changing now regularly in this final 6 or 7 minutes. We didn't see the quick Berger lap. We've seen some very exciting laps indeed from young John Alesi. John called them untidy, and Alesi currently in 8th spot. And now we have Nigel Mansell on his quick one. Yes, that was quick coming through the corner. There is Mansell. The watch has started. Just check out his previous time. Yeah, that warming up lap, Mansell did 1:18.691. And Nigel, look at the way he's driving over the curbs. He's using every bit of the racetrack, and let him watch him running wide every inch of the track, plus about 1.5 feet of the curbs on the inside and on the edge of the corner. And Nigel here is at his most committed, and that is very, very exciting indeed to watch. It's playing with that little lever on the steering wheel that changes the 7 gears up and down. The only car with this semi-automatic gearbox. Over 6,000 feet above sea level here, as Mansell again pops it over the curb, really trying his head bobbing about in the cockpit. And Nigel Mansell is definitely on a quick one. You can see the stopwatch running. Currently the pole is 1:17.227. 17.227, remember that. And let's look at this part of the corner. I would say his lap speed at this stage is slightly quicker than Senna's, who is currently second. So let's have a look and see what he's going to do. 1:17.938. Yes, 2 seconds. Yes, he goes on to the front row of the grid, but he's still Gerhard Berger in the pole. So there, Nigel Mansell up to second spot. Bumps Riccardo Patrese off the front row of the grid. There's confirmation of the top 7. The minutes ticking away. The man with the checkered flag has already mounted the rostrum. So just a couple of minutes left now for whoever else thinks he can put in a quick one to do so. Mansell, that was his 20th lap. You don't often see that many laps in qualifying, but Mansell used race tyres, hot race tyres, to really get up to speed early on in the session. So it's still Berger on 1:17.227, then it's Mansell, then it's Patrese, Senna, Martini, Modena and Alesi. There he is now, back in the pits, Gerhard Berger, taking off his crash helmet. Gerhard Berger looking slightly pensive. I would have thought he'd been absolutely over the moon with his performance. Between the 2 races, he and the McLaren trainer went away and had a week's training, and the team pays a lot of attention to the fitness of their drivers, and Gerhard spent a week doing various different exercises, jogging, calisthenics, and really they want to try and build up his upper body strength. Probably Senna is the stronger of the 2 drivers in the physical sense, and they're trying to get Berger into a condition to match that of Senna. So obviously what they've been doing over the last week has given them some sense of conditioning, and the performance was pretty impressive.
Well, that's Friday's action here on Eurosport. Join us again on Saturday for final qualifying. From John Watson and myself, Andrew Marriott, it's goodbye.